All right, welcome everyone. Today is our student tech check focused on Gmail. We're going to share some tips and tricks to make it a better service, we hope, for you. It is something that everyone has to deal with and face, and there are a lot of challenges associated with email, but we have some really clear tips and ways to organize that we think is going to be better for both students and parents and everybody involved. So I'll get started with introductions. I'm Jamie Lusader. I am the Chief Technology Officer for Lackawanna Unified, and always excited to bring these lessons to you. And joining me is Kai, and I'll let him do a brief introduction.
Hi, I'm Kai. I'm a student at LCHS, currently in 11th grade. And yeah, I've been doing an independent project with Miss Lusader to try and make tech work better for everyone, especially now that we're moving to distance learning and all that jazz.
Thank you. And also joining Mrs. Daly. Would you like to do a brief introduction?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. I am very excited to work with teachers and students in how to use technology better in your classrooms.
Excellent. So let me stop that share and move to the doc we're going to be using today. I posted it in the link, posted in the chat for you. If you go to bit.ly/LCUSD Gmail, you're going to see the document, and let me share it on our screen here. And I'll give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. All right. This a little bit bigger for everyone. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go over a few things. I'm going to give you an overview. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can organize your inbox. We're going to talk about the terms and kind of vocabulary of Gmail so you know what we're talking about. That's this box here. We're going to talk a little bit about organization, how to use the search feature, definitely go over etiquette and how to send successful emails, especially if you're emailing to teachers. We want to give you some tips for that. We're going to talk a little bit about how to organize your Google Classroom so that way your inbox is cleaner. And then along the way, we're going to do a couple giveaways. We're going to show you how to use some features in Gmail for custom themes and for how to set up video meetings. All right, so Kai, are you going to kick us off with the inbox terms and a tour of inbox?
Yeah, I can do that. Should I share my screen?
Yeah, go right ahead. Let me stop sharing. There we go. I have to give you permission. 1 second. There we go. Okay, try again now, please.
There we go. That works. Okay, Zoom just disappears when I do that. Great. Anyway, here's Gmail. I hope you're all familiar with it, but we're going to dive pretty deep into this today. Let me just move this so I can see my stuff. There we go. Okay, so I'll introduce you to kind of how everything is set up here. It seems simple, but it can get complicated very quickly. So the first thing is, of course, the inbox. These are the sort of categories. I don't really want to call them labels because they're kind of distinct, but these are categories, and the inbox is the one you're probably the most familiar with. It has presumably all the emails you get, and as we can see here, there's a lot of stuff from Google Classroom, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with as students. And over here are stars, so that's relatively simple. You just go to an email and then hit the star. And now that's starred, and it should show up over here in case you want to save a single email or multiple emails for later. And then there are filters, which I think we'll go into more later, and also labels.
Hey, can I ask you to just zoom in a tiny bit? I'm looking at it kind of on a smaller screen, just to make sure everybody can see. Okay. Maybe commit. Yeah, perfect. That looks great. Awesome. Yeah, so I want to highlight one tip that Kai just showed you. So if you get emails from a teacher or it's directions for assignments, and you're going to want to look at that again, but you don't really have a good system for organizing yet, try using the starred feature. So Kai, can you demonstrate that one more time and show them how that works?
So here's just a little button. Say I want to save these instructions for later, just hit the star button and it stays in my inbox, which is super handy. But if I think, okay, where was that one thing I saved? I can't find it. Maybe you're on a different page of this endless mass of emails. Wait, where was that email? You can just go over to starred and here it is in its own little area where you can kind of siphon things off that are more important to deal with them better. And you can unstart when you're done, delete it, archive it, which we also will go over.
Awesome. That's perfect. Yeah. So again, like that's like the first way to start getting control of your inbox, and it's super easy. Just remember when you're done with a message to unstar it, because then suddenly your starred folder will just, or category will just have as many messages as your inbox. So keep an eye on that.
See, this is not helpful.
Right. Yeah. Good
When you get to the point where you're just starring everything, this is no longer better than the inbox.
Great.
So just make sure to keep it selective and only the most important things.
Great. Okay, so a couple more things that I want to show you. Let me share my screen. Go back to inbox. Sorry, I got too many tabs open. Here we go. Okay, let me zoom in a tiny bit for you. Okay, so as Kai was just showing us, just touring, everybody probably knows how to get your email composed here, and then you have these folders over here. One thing I think that not everybody knows is that under more right here, you have this all mail, and then you have spam, and then you have trash. So super important to kind of know that these exist in terms of trying to find something. So one thing I like to do is also show people that there's different types of inboxes. So when you go over to the gear for settings, when you open this up, there are inbox types. And this is where, again, I want you to play around with this and really see what works for you. So one thing that I love, and this is how I structure my email, I do unread first. And so for those of you that want to just know what you need to deal with, like what's not been processed yet, that's a really good way. So everything unread will be here at the top. I can close this down and everything else will be down here below. So this is kind of nice. So if I looked at this security alert, awesome. Yes, I just signed in to this. So that's good to know. I'm going to close it. And then now it moves down to my everything else pile. So one consideration with this inbox style is that it does make things seem a little bit out of order in terms of time, because now they're separated by unread and read. So if you're a person that wants everything in chronological order, because that's how your brain processes, you may not want to use this method. But to me, it makes it very handy because I can kind of close my unread and then go, okay, what were those last few things I needed to do here? One other strategy is once you've kind of processed everything that's unread, I can check this box here that selects all of them. And then up here, I get a whole host of options. And I think these are important to know. So this one is archive. So this lets you move everything into your archives. And essentially all that is what I showed you over here under more. And that moves everything to all mail. So there really isn't a need to delete anything in Gmail because for students, you have unlimited storage. So we're not too worried about it. Your trash will empty after 30 days. So again, you have the choice of just archiving things or deleting them, but deleting is not that important. The one thing that I would recommend that you always do want to delete is anything that seems suspicious, like a phishing email. We want you to report it to us. So you can send me an email and let me know you found something, or you can use this button up here, this report spam. If you press that button, I get an email and our other Google administrator gets an email that the message you flagged, if there's something wrong with it. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I picked this one, I could do report as spam, and then off it goes. It's going to report that as spam. And then I'm going to get a message saying somebody was worried about that specific message. So it doesn't break anything if you do that. But I do want to caution you, when you use it, then that means messages like that may not come back into your inbox. So just kind of double check that that's what it is. Also up here, we have the delete button, so super handy. So you can just delete right from there. So this allows you to kind of process your mail without having to open each one. And then in a couple minutes, Kai is going to talk you through moving things to folders and labels, other great ways to stay organized. And this button is super cool. It's kind of an advanced feature, but if somebody sent you something and you're just not ready to deal with it yet, or it's something you need to deal with maybe in a couple days, you can hit the snooze button and it will resend it to you later. So that's kind of a cool thing that sometimes I get a message and it's like, oh, this is a project I'm going to work on, but I don't have time for 2 days. So I may reply back to the person and say, hey, I'm going to work on this. And then I will snooze it so it comes back into my inbox. So there's a few little tips and tricks up here with these. The other thing I wanted to show you are the other types of inboxes. So that's unread first. You'll always be in kind of the default one. There is also starred first. This one I think takes a little bit more time to kind of customize because it means everything that's starred would show up first, but that would take setting up some custom rules for them to come in. So an example for this, if you set up a rule that everything from your teacher came in starred, then that would mean the top pane of everything would just be the messages from your teacher, which is kind of cool. So again, that's a process you can use. And then priority inbox is another one that you can customize and use. This is where you can set up these different inbox sections. Again, I think this is super advanced. And if you really wanted to get into like really customizing your inbox, I would encourage you to play with it. But I think kind of the most accessible ones for everyone to use are the, let me go back, are the either the starred first or the unread first or just default. I feel like those are the easiest to use. And then you have some options in terms of the view. So you can change a little bit how kind of spaced or not spaced the messages are. So again, just based on your reading preferences and your viewing preferences. And you can also choose to have your messages open up on a side pane. And a lot of people love this. So you can kind of see your messages previewed over here. So it's really just again, play with this and kind of decide how you best want to organize it. So you can see that I have priority inbox on. So this means this is where Google uses a little bit of AI and they start to read your mail and determine what's important based on how often you interact with it or how frequent you get messages from that sender. Or if you have things starred, so then your priority inbox gets set up here. So the caution with this one is sometimes if you only have your important unread messages first, you might be missing things from important people because they haven't been kind of categorized correctly. So again, I think that one is a really cool feature, but definitely one that takes a little more setup. So I'm going to go back to unread first because that's my favorite style. And I think that one works really well. Okay, so that's a main tour of the inbox. Oh, let me turn off that one other side pane because that makes it a little bit hard to see everything. There we go. All right, next on our list, Kai, do you want to teach them about labels and filters?
Well, can you quickly show marking as unread? Ms. Daly was asking about that.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my chat window closed. Let me open back up. Thanks for that note. Awesome. Okay, so let's say I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to mark them as red. So we just see, let me go back down to everything else. Okay, so let's say there's a message that I read, but I want to, my method for keeping my email straight is if it's unread, then it's going to be something I'm going to work on. That's going to be how I keep track of my inbox. So let's say this message here, I want to put back in my inbox. So you would select it and then you would go up to this little mail icon, the little envelope here, and you could do mark as unread. If you open it, you also have those same options across the top. So you don't have to only work in this pane. Again, if you do open them, you have the same tools up here. You can archive, spam, trash, mark as unread, snooze, add to tasks is new. This is a cool feature where if you're making a to-do list, but again, start slow, practice first with organization and kind of how you want your inbox to look. And then you can start talking about how you're going to process. So I'll mark that as unread. And then that one should pop back up. Yep, right there at the top, ready to go. Great. Okay, Kai, why don't you show us labels and filters? Because this is super important. And as he gets ready to share his screen, I'll tell you a little bit about how I use that. So I have when mail comes in from my boss and my other colleagues at the district level, there'll be a label, like a little kind of tab attached to it. It says VIP. So I can quickly see in my email, of course I would see their name, but I'll see a little label that's attached to it that just gives me a color visual that this is something I might want to look at faster than I look at all the other messages, because I do get a lot of email each day. So Kai's going to show us how to set that up and what it will look like.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to set up a label and look at search a bit. And the use case for this would be, say, you know, I'm getting all this crap from Classroom and I really don't want it because it's not, I don't need to know that this is due or something like that. Or either that, or I want to have it, but I don't want it to distract from the actual emails from actual people. And that's very valid. So how are we going to solve this problem? So first thing we need to do in order to kind of siphon all that off automatically is we just want to find, okay, all of these Classroom emails, what do they have in common? And in this case, it would be they're all from something at classroom.google.com. So that's super easy. So now we'll go up to our handy search bar and hit this down arrow to show the search options. And I want to search for anything that's from at classroom.google.com.
Mm-hmm. And that's the domain name. So as we're giving you kind of a little bit of vocabulary here. So when messages come in, just as in terms of thinking about a little cybersecurity, also pay attention to the domain name. Sometimes you might see a teacher's name, but then it doesn't say LCUSD.net. So kind of keep track when messages are coming in, be aware of where they're coming from. And so that's the domain name right there, classroom.google.com.
Yeah, and so when I do that, I can just search and hopefully, great. So here are 1 to 50 of many. Google doesn't even want to tell me there are so many of them, but Google is dealing with this, and these are all of the emails that come from classroom.google.com. Okay, so that's great. I have all of them. So now what I could do is I could just select all of them and delete if that's my jam, but I want them to automatically do something. So the first thing I want to do is go over to more, and that's where you see important chats, all that stuff like trash, all mail, and spam. And then I'll go to create a new label, and I just want a label called Classroom because I want a separate label for emails from Google Classroom. So if I go up, there's Classroom. I don't even need to hit the more button. So that's nice, but wait, there aren't any emails there. So what we have to do is go back to this search, and then we hit the down arrow again. And then here's the magical button, create filter. If you click that, what do you want all of these messages to do when they arrive? So I want it to not go to my inbox because that's annoying. I probably want to mark it as read because that way I don't have to look through my archived mail and see a bunch of these and they're unread. And hey, maybe I want to apply the label. Look at that, Classroom. And let's see, all this other stuff, not really necessary, but useful if you're trying to do any of these things, like starring things or marking it as important depending on who sends it to you. So if you get an email from someone that's important to you, you could automatically star it. That way you can get to it quicker. And here, we also want to apply the filter to matching conversations. So that will apply it to all of these here that we've already gotten, including all future mail that matches this. So if I click create filter, hello, there we go. The filter was created, and now it's all gone.
Isn't that amazing? It's like a like fresh air in your inbox to get all of those to go away. But they're not really gone, right? So,
but if I go over to Classroom,
yeah, there we go.
There's all the mail. I don't know why it's not showing all of them. I think it might take some time to process.
Yeah, there were a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go. Refresh.
There are 279 of them. Perfect.
Great.
So yeah, that's how you can do that. I don't really know why this one didn't go through. Doesn't make too much sense. But
Kai,
yeah,
can you show us one more time, but this time, can you set up a label for anything that comes from me would be starred?
yeah. So the quickest way to do that would be first, if you want to make any filter, you just want to search for what you want to change. So I would take this email from Miss Lusader, right click it, find emails from Jamie Lee Lusader. If I click that, it'll automatically search with that email address. And would you look at that? Here are the emails from her. So if I go over to here, I can just quickly turn this into a filter, and I want all those messages to be starred. Can you try sending a test message
For sure.
and also apply that filter to the 3 I have in my inbox already? So now when I create that, all those emails are starred. So when I go over to starred, look at that, it's Miss Lusader mail. And a cool thing, if you're a bit more advanced with this, you can go over to settings and then filters and blocked addresses. So if you go over to here, you can see a list of exactly what all of your filters do. You can delete them, modify them, however you want. And this is just a really good representation of what Google is doing, that what you've told it to do. So if it's from Miss Lusader, start. If it's from Google Classroom, skip it, skip the inbox, mark it as read, and apply the label.
And that's a really good troubleshooting tip. If you think you're missing messages, check out your rules because you may have inadvertently created something that's catching messages that you weren't expecting to go into those folders. All right, there my new message came in and it's starred. Awesome.
Yeah, look at that. So if I'm just browsing starred, as in, that's all the stuff that's very important. Here we go. Here's the
And you might
important
need to
stuff.
refresh to see the newest one. Let's see.
Yeah, there
Yep,
it is.
perfect. There we go. Awesome. So as I talked about earlier, if you wanted to customize your inbox and use that priority setting and have all the starred ones show up at the top, totally doable. So again, if you wanted to customize all messages coming from your teacher or Mr. Cardinal or your principal, any of those things to be starred, that's how you would set it up. Or you could also create labels for them. So you could create a label called teacher and then create a folder just like he created for Classroom where all your teacher emails go there. But what I would recommend for that one is not have them skip the inbox or mark as unread, just have them get the label. So then you have the option of seeing them in your inbox, but already having them sorted in that Classroom folder on the side. So that way you can find them pretty quickly.
Okay, yeah, and we have a really quick giveaway.
Yes.
And that is Google Meet, straight from your inbox. Would you look at that? Google Meet. So in case you're not familiar with Google Meet, it's basically Zoom, but Google, and it's very easy. It works in any web browser. And this is nice if you're just setting up an email, if you're setting up a meeting that you want to join after school with people in your group to work on a project, or if you just want to be one-on-one with someone, or you can even do this for your classes as a teacher. So you can just hit new meeting. I don't know if you see that, so I will share the entire desktop. Let's see. There we go. And here's that new meeting. So if I were to send this link to anyone, they would be able to join. And then you can join the meeting and let Google Meet use your camera and microphone, of course. And here's that meeting ready to use. So you can join it. Yes, Google, I know. And here's that nice handy meeting. So what's handy about this is, in case you forgot, of course, you can just go over here and here's that link again. You could send it to anyone. Of course, you can just send them this link up here and that'll work too. But there are so many ways to make this work for you. And if you copy the joining info and I wanted to email this to someone back to Gmail, I could just compose a message to Miss Lusader. So there's the meeting information.
Hey, Kai, did you add the email signature to this account or did somebody else do that?
But it's pretty clever.
I think that's hilarious. Peter's teacher is Captain Hook. That's so funny.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's really good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we will go a bit more into how to write an effective email, but I think this is good enough. And then I would just send that. Boom, Miss Lusader can join the meeting.
Perfect. All right, so that was excellent. We have gone over types of inboxes, labels, and filters. And if you want to see that again in action, we have this recording, but you can also Google setting up labels, setting up filters, and watch some quick videos. Definitely play with that because we feel like that's a powerhouse tool inside Gmail to really keep it organized. But I also want to go over a couple other things with you, and then we'll go into etiquette. So we talked a little bit about kind of the all mail, spam, archiving, deleting, and starred. So just making sure you know that when you're in your inbox, you have those options to kind of process your mail. And as Kai showed you, if you search for something specifically, anything that has to do with classroom.google.com, they all show up here. So when I'm helping my grandmother with her inbox and I go over and I take dinner over on Thursday nights and I check her inbox and it's like over 1,000 and she's got messages from Bed Bath & Beyond and Macy's and all those things. I try to clean it up for her because she wants to get the sale coupons, but it just clogs her inbox. So I search for them and then I can quickly just archive all of them that are old, because I know she's looked at them, but she doesn't always archive them and move them out, but I don't want her to miss messages. So this is a good way, like a quick way to get your inbox cleaned up is just search for a specific domain. Like let's say you signed up for DoorDash and you're getting DoorDash coupons and things like that. Kai's going to show you how to kind of deal with those things a little bit later, but I also just like to grab all of them and just get rid of them. So that's, and then I would hit this archive button and off they would go and they'd be gone. So remember there's archive, there's marking as spam, and then there's deleting. And to get to those messages, once you've processed them, we want to make sure you remember under here, click the more and then scroll down. It's a little bit hidden because of the Google Meet settings that Kai just demonstrated. So you can also clean that up by moving it a little bit, which is super nice. Okay, so those I wanted to make sure you knew. And then we didn't talk about search yet. So let's do that. Kai demonstrated a little bit, but what's so nice about Gmail, because you're not throwing anything away, everything lives in here. So if you want to search for something specifically, I don't know if there's anything from Mr. Cartnell in this inbox, but let's check. I think because, excellent, there is one. So we were able to search and just find it. Now, so there are a lot of really cool tools. When you click on the search, you can put who you want the message to be from and find them there. If you wanted it to be directly to you, that's usually most helpful because sometimes you'll search and you'll find messages that were sent to multiple people and you just want to find the one that was sent to you. If you know specifically what the subject was, you can put that in. I also love if you're like, oh, I remember it had an attachment, then you can click that. That will filter it down a lot more. So start with kind of a wide search if you're looking for mail, and then you can add these criteria to make it a little bit more specific. You can also search by date. So if you remember it was, 2 weeks ago, you can put in that criteria, but usually just putting that it was from a certain person to you will show you all of them. So let's try from Mrs. Schwartz, who I know has been using this account, and let's see if we find anything. No, she's just been using Google Classroom. Okay, but that's how it would work. It would show you. So if we did, if we just searched for me, and you guys have been seeing those sessions, there's all the messages coming in from me in one place, and you can quickly find the one that you're looking for. So that's great. So search, again, is really, really easy to use, and use those little restrictors. Okay, let's talk about etiquette, and then we have another giveaway, and then we will wrap up with unsubscribing from your Google Classroom announcements. So not only did Kai teach you how to make a filter for them, but there is a way to get that under control on the Google Classroom side. So Miss Daly, I would love your help kind of chiming in on this. As a teacher, I want to talk to everybody about writing successful emails to teachers and adults, and why this is so important. So here's my advice for you. I think it's so important that you are really kind and respectful and clear in your messages. So it goes a long way to say something like, good afternoon, Mrs. Daly. I hope you had a nice day. Like super simple. And then launch into your question or your comment or whatever your need is. But be clear, again, be respectful. Try to avoid not talking in proper grammar. I want everybody to remember that teachers kind of look at everything with red pins as their eyes, right? Like we're all trained to kind of grade. So writing an email that's free of grammar errors, again, little mistakes, not that big a deal, but you want to, especially if you're asking for something like, maybe there's a homework assignment you turned in and you're looking for it, or maybe there's a grade that you need fixed, things like that. You want to write the perfect email. So my top tips are: be kind, be respectful, be clear, and use proper grammar. And then again, proofread. Spend that extra few minutes when I'm sending out a message, and sometimes I send them out on behalf of the superintendent, and I cannot tell you the pressure to push the send email button that's going to go to 7,000 people. And she asks me sometimes to proofread, and I freak out. And then I'm like, okay, I got this. I was an English teacher, I can do it, but I tend to read the messages out loud. So I will read it out loud. That will help me hear any mistakes, and then I'll be confident to press send. So I definitely encourage proofread. And again, read it out loud, especially if you're asking something super important. You don't want them to read the mistake versus and miss your message. So that's important. And then my last two tips: really be patient with timing. Our teachers are getting so many email. I logged at in the springtime when all of this just really started. We were getting 1 million more email going through our system than we were prior to the pandemic starting. So there's just so much communication happening because it's the only way that we're really talking to each other right now. So just know that sometimes the teachers are overwhelmed with email. They have a lot in their inbox. So just be patient with timing. If you don't hear from them within 24 hours or 48 hours, send a very polite follow-up email, or try to ask in office hours, which would be super effective because then you could actually get them face-to-face. And then my last tip for you, and then I'd love Miss Daly to add anything if she has anything, really try to be as frictionless as possible. And what I mean by this is when you write your email, be clear with what you're asking and what you need, and make it super short, because when a teacher opens up a message, if it's this very long paragraph and a lot going on, what I would do is I would close it, mark it as unread, and then deal with it later, because it was just too much for me to get to. But if it's something that's short and easy to do, like, dear Mrs. Lusader, I'm pretty sure I turned in the chapter 4 quiz. Can you double check for me? And then even like put a picture that it was submitted in Google Classroom, so the teacher doesn't even have to like think about it. They just know, oh yeah, for sure it was turned in. I just need to grade it. Like, that's frictionless. Like, you are giving the evidence needed, you're asking politely, and it's super clear what you need. And so those are my 5 tips for successfully emailing your teachers. Miss Daly, anything to add?
I have 2 that are very much like Mrs. Lusader's. Remember that Mrs. Lusader and I are both English teachers, and so we come at this as English teachers, where grammar and punctuation are important to us. But we also straddle the line between talking to students and talking to administrators. And so we read a lot of different kinds of emails. And so I really only have 2 asks. Number 1, say dear. Dear Mrs. Staley, dear student, say hello. It doesn't have to say dear. It has to say something before you ask me to do something for you. It's simply polite. And I even, I comment and thank students who remember to do this, because it immediately makes me feel happier and more willing to help them. Number 2, along with being frictionless, I ask that you read your email out loud or read it to somebody else, and make sure that it's not passive aggressive or aggressive. Don't say anything in an email, especially to somebody older than you, if you wouldn't say it to their face. It's simply good online etiquette in general. And so often we hear that what we write online can be misconstrued because somebody doesn't hear it in our own voice. And that is so true of emails. When we are frustrated and we know we turned something in and we need it to be done because my mom is getting on my back because my grade isn't reflected correctly, I need this teacher to help me now. She should have caught this a couple days ago. but I don't know this teacher's circumstances or whatever the case may be. And so I need to remember that everybody has a lot of work to do right now. So please read your email out loud to yourself or even to somebody else in your household, and make sure that your tone is nice and respectful. It doesn't matter to whom this is for.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think those are really good additional tips. And I want to give, and I've mentioned this in other tech sessions, but I want to give this note to you about email. An email can, well written, really make a difference. So I love the tip about kind of hello, dear, good afternoon. Super awesome. But also, again, being clear and respectful. You're more likely going to get a yes with that type of email versus aggressive email making demands. And that's just the way it is. So, and maybe even though you're right and what you're emailing is correct, it might take a little longer if the email comes across as rude or hostile or aggressive. So just know that being polite, again, just as she said, as you would in person, will make a huge difference. And I had a student that was trying to get into a college class. The college class was full. She emailed the teacher in a super polite, respectful way. And other people who were trying to get in the class did not. And she got in, and the professor went out of his way to say it was because of the way she wrote her email. He let her in the class. So just know that it really can go a long way and make a difference. Okay, that's all for etiquette.
I have one more to add too,
Please.
that tends to get really far with specific teachers. Make sure the email is from you, you guys. Make sure that you are the one writing the email rather than asking your parents to write it for you on your behalf. Of course, this is easier. And let's be honest, some of our teachers respond more quickly when a parent writes the email than when a student writes the email. I understand that. But just like Mrs. Lusader said, so many more teachers are more willing to help a student who reaches out him or herself and advocates for themselves rather than asking a parent to do it for you. Just a word of advice.
Love that. And I actually, when I was teaching, I would tell parents that I would answer students first and give them a shorter window of when emails would be answered, and parents had a little bit longer time because I wanted the students to be in charge of their education and really advocating for themselves. So again, know your audience, know your teacher, know their preferences, but that is such a good tip. I highly encourage that one as well. Okay, we're going to wrap up with a couple things. So lastly, we want to show you how to change your Google Classroom notifications in Classroom, because that will clean up your inbox also. But before we do that, I do want to show you our other giveaway. This is under the gear. And if you haven't done this yet, and maybe you have, but I want to make sure everybody knows it, I'm going to click on See All Settings, and there is a super fun element in this, and it is called themes. And let's see, why am I not seeing it across the list here? Hold on. I hope we don't have this turned off for students. Kai, are you able to turn on themes in your personal email?
I am, but not in
your school
email.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I may have to check our permissions and see if there's a way. This might be turned off because we may not be able to control the personal made themes by people that post in the theme store. But I promise you, I will research this after our session and see if we can get this turned on. And it's a way for you to add color and backgrounds and a little bit more fun to your messages. So I apologize that I didn't double check that in our demo account before getting your hopes up that we could turn on themes. So we will get that fixed. But I do want to alert you to, again, and when you're in settings, you have control over all the things that we talked about. So you can check your labels, how you have your inbox set up, and then how the filters that got set up that Kai showed you. Okay, so we're going to wrap up with looking at Google Classroom, and then we'd love to take any questions that you have. So Kai, will you show us organizing notifications in Classroom?
And Mrs. Lusader, another giveaway could be showing them, or Kai, you could do this, the undo feature. That's a great giveaway too.
Ooh, love that. Okay, I think that's other inbox. Yes. Okay. So before we move off this page, if you go to general, this is a lifesaver. I use this all the time. And even as careful as I am, this is amazing. So there is a secret trick. This is called undo send, and you can turn this on. And what this does is it gives you a little bit of a buffer after you've sent the message. If you suddenly panic and realize you didn't mean to hit send, or just as you were sending it, you saw the typo, whatever it is, you can turn on this little delay. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to send a message to Miss Daly. Checking in. And let's say, remember my salutation. And my cat jumped on my keyboard and hit send. Down here, I get this undo message, and this will last for 30 seconds. So that's what I set it up as. So I'm going to hit undo. It is pulled back from the jaws of email, and I can fix this and now send it out. So undo send is super, super great. So again, under the gear, and then see all settings. And then right here, you can choose how much time you want to have on that. And that is my final giveaway for you. Okay, Kai's going to show you notifications, and then we are ready for questions. And Linda, I see your hand up. So as soon as Kai shows Google Classroom, we will take your questions. So thank you.
Okay, Zoom. There we go. Okay, so, well, I'll go over that one next, but we've established how to put all your classroom emails into another folder, so to speak. It's a label, and that's nice and all, but what if you just don't want them at all? You don't want them on your conscience. You don't want them, burning this hole in your inbox, even though the hole is very concealed. How are you going to do that? So the easiest way, it's super quick. You just have to click one of them and click unsubscribe. And now unsubscribe doesn't actually unsubscribe you, which is kind of interesting. But
I think
here,
it's a fail safe because Google wants to make sure you know what you're doing.
Yep. So if I just want to receive absolutely no email from Google Classroom, there we go. I'm no longer receiving any email from Google Classroom. Look at that. But I don't really suggest doing that because, what if this used to bug me a lot? What if there's a new announcement that doesn't show up as an assignment and you can't query the assignments in the API? So you have to get email notifications for the announcements. So you'd want to enable this and say, yeah, comments, that sounds good. If I get a comment or a comment that mentions me or a comment on my work, that sounds fine. For classes I'm in, I don't really want to know the grades as soon as they're graded. I'll look at Aries for that. And invitations to join class, that's a good idea. Do I want to be reminded that something's due tomorrow? I think I already know. I can turn that off. And there you go. That's a bit more cut back. So now you'll only be getting work emails that say, teacher posted a new assignment that's due tomorrow. And then you can click it and go straight to Google Classroom. Or if they post an announcement, it'll be like this. This is super handy. What if I just need to know what's going on? That's great. And here's another cool feature. If you click this little arrow here, you can actually disable the notifications by class. So say you check one of your classes constantly, so you never need the emails. They're just hampering down your inbox. You can just disable, hey, I check demo class every day. It's always open on my second monitor. I don't need emails for that. So now you won't be receiving emails for returned work, not if something's due in the future, and you probably already know, and not for this one class that you check constantly. That's a lot more sane. And it goes into a separate label, which is super nice because, hey, the inbox is actual emails. And the next thing I want to go over is how you deal with an inbox like this. I'm signed in as Mickey Mouse right now. And Mickey Mouse seems to have a problem with New York Times. There are the daily announcements. So you could create a filter for the New York Times, or you could simply just, mark it as spam. But if you want to permanently not receive emails from anything in general, New York Times specifically here, all you have to do for these bulk sent emails usually is scroll all the way down to the bottom. And there should be somewhere in the bottom. It's usually hidden quite a bit. unsubscribe or manage your email preferences. So all I've got to do if I want to never receive a New York Times email again is click, and if they're an honorable company, they will never bother you again. And here, this is only unsubscribing from one of the many newsletters, so I'd have to go through every time I get an email and click unsubscribe, but eventually it would stop for good. So I think that's a big improvement from just marking something as spam or making a filter that sends it to somewhere else, because you are never getting that email. Let's go through another one. What is this?
And also, as you set up, I want to caution, again, from a cybersecurity standpoint, you want to also double check when you hover over that unsubscribe button that, again, if it's, looks very reputable, like this is the New York Times, that, or, just you can trust it, but it's nice if you hover over, you can actually see the URL. It should pop up in the bottom left-hand corner. Just make sure it kind of matches what you're unsubscribing to, because you don't want it, these kind of actors, they call them in cybersecurity, are being very crafty about how they try to get ransomware to you. So just be cautious when you're clicking links. Always try to hover over and make sure you know what you're clicking.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. And you should always also just check the sender. So it's something at newyorktimes.com, and that's usually pretty accurate. And look at this, for this one, firstly, here's the mailing list I'm subscribed to. Google knows that, and that's pretty handy. So you could make a filter for that, or you can just unsubscribe straight from here. So if you click this, Google will do Google magic, and it looks like I've unsubscribed. And I can even move this to spam, because I don't want to hear any of that anymore. So if you continuously do that, whenever you get an email that bothers you, eventually it'll slow down to a trickle. And for me, at least, since I never give my email to anyone, it's kind of relaxing to have an inbox that's absolutely empty, except for when someone wants to get a hang of me.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you all so much. Just recapping what we went over, and then we are going to take any questions that you have. So today we talked a little bit about the different types of inboxes and ways to organize so you can use labels, filters. Our first tip is just start using the star, so everything that's important kind of goes in one place. We showed you how to take a single topic, like all your classroom notifications, and move it into one place so you're not getting bogged down with all of them there. And then we talked a little bit about, using the spam button to report things. You can archive or you can delete. We showed you how to use the search tool. We talked extensively about etiquette and how to write successful emails. And then we closed with showing you how to shut down those notifications directly out of Gmail. So I'm going to stop our recording, and then we have some time for questions. So thank you everyone so much.